Welcome to Mrs. Jamo's Joyful Reading Corner. Let's turn on our imaginations as we read Squanto and the First Thanksgiving by Joyce Kessel. Pictures by Lisa Dawns. Squanto and the First Thanksgiving by Joyce Kessel. Pictures by Lisa Dawns. For thousands of years, people all over the world have set aside special days for giving thanks. People in the U.S. and Canada have celebrated Thanksgiving for over 350 years. How did Thanksgiving start? Most of us think right away of the Pilgrims, but the story really begins with a Patuxet Indian named Squanto. Without Squanto, the Pilgrims would never have celebrated the first Thanksgiving. The Patuxet tribe lived near the place we now call Plymouth, Massachusetts. There they grew corn and hunted wild animals. They were friendly and peaceful. Then, in the early 1600s, an English ship came to Plymouth. These Englishmen were explorers. They were looking for riches. They hoped to find gold or silver, but all they found was corn and Indians. The Englishmen had never seen corn. They didn't know what to do with it. But they thought they knew what to do with the Indians. They would sell them as slaves. So the Englishmen captured a few Patuxet braves. They took the Patuxets to England and sold them. Squanto was one of those Patuxets. When he got to England, he was sold as a slave. He had to learn how to speak English, and he had to work very hard. Squanto was used to hard work. The Plymouth winters were long and cold. Sometimes Squanto had been hungry all winter long, but the rest of the year had brought riches. The woods of his home were full of berries and wild animals, and even when he had been hungry, he had been free. Squanto longed for his home. He dreamed of his people and of his wild, free land. His master could see that Squanto was not happy. He felt sorry for his slave. Finally, he set Squanto free. In 1614, Captain John Smith sailed for the New World. Squanto went with him. He returned at last to his tribe, but not for long. Captain Smith sailed back to England, but he left one of his ships behind. The captain of that ship was named Thomas Hunt. Hunt traded with the Patuxets. He filled his ship with fish and animal furs, but Hunt was greedy. He wanted to make more money than the fish and furs would bring. So he also filled part of his ship with Patuxet braves. Squanto was captured again. After only a few weeks at home, he was sailing back across the ocean. Hunt knew that Captain Smith would be angry with him for capturing the Patuxets, so Hunt sold the Patuxets in Spain instead of England. Squanto's new masters were Catholic monks. They taught him the Christian faith. They were kind to him, but of course Squanto was sadder than ever. All he wanted was his freedom. At last the monks took pity on him. They helped him get to England. From England, Squanto was able to find a ship going to America. He was on his way home again. But what great sadness he found when he arrived. Squanto could not believe his eyes. All the Patuxets were dead. He wandered through empty villages. All he found were crumbling huts. The once green cornfields lay black and dead. All the people were gone. Squanto was the only living Patuxet. What had happened? A neighboring tribe told him his people had all been killed by the white man's plague. The ships from England had brought smallpox germs. Smallpox was a new disease to the Patuxets, so they died quickly from it. After all those years of longing for his home, Squanto found he had no home. he moved in with a neighboring tribe. Squanto had been back for 1 year when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, Massachusetts. That was on December 21st, 1620. The Pilgrims were English. They had left England to look for a new home, where people would let them worship God the way they chose. They were lucky to land at Plymouth. The Patuxets were all dead, and the other Indians were afraid of smallpox, so there were no angry Indians ready to fight for their land. The Indians just watched from a distance. The Pilgrims had been townspeople. They did not know how to plant. They did not know how to build. They made cold little houses out of mud, clay, and sticks. They were not used to the cold. They did not have much to eat. During their first terrible winter, half of the Pilgrims died. By the spring of 1621, there were only 55 of them left. That was when Squanto decided to help them. Squanto knew that the Pilgrims were Christians. None of the other Indians were Christians, but when Squanto had lived in Spain, he had become a Christian. Also, Squanto knew how to speak English. So in 1621, he went to visit the Pilgrims. After his first visit, he never left them. Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to find animals to shoot for meat. He showed them how to build warm houses. He helped them make friends with the neighboring Indians. He explained how to plant. He told them to watch the leaves on the trees. When they were as big as squirrels' ears, the corn should be planted. He taught the Pilgrim women how to cook the corn. Squanto and the Pilgrims worked very hard all spring and summer, and in the fall, the harvest was a good one. Because of Squanto's help, the Pilgrims would have warm homes and plenty to eat through the winter. The Pilgrims wanted to celebrate. They decided to have a feast. They sent Squanto to invite an Indian chief named Massasoit to their dinner. They thought that Massasoit might bring a few braves, too. Thanksgiving feasts were not new to the Indians. Theirs was called the Green Corn Dance, and it was a huge feast. So Massasoit brought 90 braves to the Pilgrims' Green Corn Dance. The Pilgrims were very surprised, but they tried not to show it. There were 55 Pilgrims and 92 Indians. That made 147 people. The Pilgrims were not sure they had enough food for everyone. They had better get busy. For 3 days, the women did nothing but cook. When the day for the feast arrived, everything was ready. What a feast it was! The Indians had brought 5 deer. The women made these into stew. They roasted turkeys, geese, and ducks. They cooked lobster, eels, clams, oysters, and fish. They made biscuits and bread. They roasted corn for hoe cakes. They boiled corn with molasses to make Indian pudding. There was plenty of dried fruit for everyone. There may have even been popcorn balls, since they were invented by the Indians in that area. Usually, the Pilgrims thought that games were a waste of time, but on this day, they gave in. Red and white men held contests. They leaped and jumped and raced. Everyone showed off. The Pilgrim men marched, the Indians shot arrows, and, of course, people ate until they could hardly move. What a joyous day that first Thanksgiving was! The Pilgrims had new warm homes, they had new friends, and plenty of food. They knew they would be able to live through the next winter. And none of it would have happened without a Patuxet Indian named Squanto. Afterward, things did not turn out to be as easy as they looked on that first Thanksgiving. The winter that followed was even worse than the first for the Pilgrims. Then 3 more ships sailed into Plymouth. They brought hundreds of people, but no food. The crop in 1622 was not a good one, so there was no Thanksgiving that year. Thanksgiving was celebrated again in 1623, but it was celebrated in July to give thanks for rain. For years, there was no official day for Thanksgiving. People celebrated it whenever they felt like it. Then, in 1864, President Lincoln named the last Thursday in November as the official U.S. Thanksgiving. In 1939, President Roosevelt changed it to the third Thursday. Then in 1941, it was changed back again. Today, people in the United States celebrate Thanksgiving on the last Thursday of November. People in Canada celebrate it on the second Monday in October. The end. Thanks for listening, and Happy Thanksgiving!